My mother had fallen ill, which was not new in my life. In fact, growing up with a mother known for her prickly attitude and sickly body was complex. The person that most terrified me was also the one I wanted to most comfort me, and either way needed some physical assistance. She was caving into another mystery illness that attacked her liver, and doctors were confused. It walked, talked, and acted like cancer, but it was not cancer. Hence, we were off to the Santeria portion of our family that had assured my alcoholic father had sent her another hex. There they were, dressed in white, dancing and spitting cane liquor. My mother was in the middle, lying on a bed surrounded by energies living and dead, trying to figure out why her stomach had grown to the size of when she was pregnant with me. Meanwhile, I walked away mid-ceremony to get an cold lemon iced tea Snapple, one of my chosen refreshments to handle the Puerto Rican heat and overwhelming existentialism. Doctors, curanderos, mothers, fathers, my life had been defined by so many people, places, and things with varying intentions and self-perceptions, but none of them I could claim as my own. In truth, the only thing that I felt was mine in that moment of my life was the Snapple. As I walked back into the room, the energy was particularly dense. They were playing palos over her stomach that was now adorned with romero, a plant used to absorb dark energies or give your pasta an earthy taste. I sat on the side, minding my own business, when La Madrina, aka my aunt, looked at me, smiled, and said the wildest thing to reset my life's course. You came to this world to prove you can be born to two snakes and still choose God. There I was, looking straight at her with a Snapple mustache and a desperate, depressing need to have some direction in my life. Beyond serving my familial duties as a mid-20s Latina, I was aimless. For being such an ambitious person, I was aimless. And this feeling was new to me, despite being unemployed for over a year. Yet I had never asked myself in the same way I had asked about my father, whether my mother had some roots in my shame. My father was a con man that studied law. He was so smart as a criminal, he passed as a lawyer. Married to 5 women, 15 kids, and more social security numbers than a pension plan could count, he was the epitome of mind over matter, and in many ways the best brujo I ever knew. Raised in Santeria, he understood how to stir a spirit trick or an energy transfer, but if you asked me, he did not need a dance ceremony or candle to do it. All he needed was words and a system that protected him. That is why when my mother was named a snake as well, I had to wonder if the years of physical, verbal, and emotional abuse had in some ways been a form of hexing. My mother stood up, the ceremony was over, and her stomach had actually stopped protruding. Within weeks, her blood levels would be normal, and she would go from medical mystery to medical marvel. Yet in that moment, despite feeling better and supposedly being healed, she had one major issue. "Did she call me a snake?" she whispered to me as people, both living and dead, exited the premises. "Yeah." "And you said nothing?" she declared, incensed. Her volume officially back to where it was always with me, up. "I'm sorry," I said sarcastically. "They were trying to cure your spirit cancer, and I did not feel it was my moment to defend your honor and act like I'm not one headscarf away from being Little Edie in Great Gardens." She grunted and went to go thank the aunt that had called her a snake and inadvertently showed me. What if she was one? All right, let's heal, let's discuss. So with this episode, it's really hard for me to talk about the brujeria portion of my family, especially in terms of my dad, because he was a really terrifying guy. My father is kind of how people are oddly describing Ryan Reynolds right now. I call it my 20 versus 3. My 23 theory, which is you take 20 people in a room, and my father could be really, really extremely impactful and impressive and even kind. Well, not really kind, because my father, when it came to virtues, it was false. It wasn't him. You know, he was nice. He wasn't kind. And he would do everything for 17 people to like him. But then there were those 3 that he absolutely detested, or he kind of saw, I can bully you. And because I was nice to 17 people, I'll never get like charged for it. I'm going to ruin 3 people's lives, but 17 people are going to say that I helped them, at least, that I was good to them. They're going to be shocked. Even if 7 out of those 17 believe you, they're not going to do anything, because at the end of the day, people follow how you treated them, not how you treated others, right? And it wasn't a bad strategy. The thing is, my father worked really, really hard to fill his life with drugs, with sex, with people, with crime. And yet he remained empty for it. And it's something that I think about in terms of all this. I think what my father loved about drugs and alcohol and sex was there was something about it. It literally changes your brain chemistry. Whereas he hoped people would. But it was all false, because if you lie to people about who you are, they lie. You can feel like their reactions are lies too. I mean, obviously, I genuinely loved my dad because he was my dad. I genuinely hated him as a human being because he was bad. And figuring out and maneuvering that was very difficult for me, because he was so. I was the 3 in the 20-person room. And I was the 3 that he was like, I'm going to ruin your life. I'm going to absolutely destroy you. And I'm going to do it a smile. And you're not going to do anything about it. And sometimes he was very successful. And, but he didn't win the war, baby. Um, and I was so, when your father openly and publicly hates you, and at best just tries to hide it with his family, it's almost like, like if somebody says I hate you, you're like, well, damn, I believe you. You certainly have the behavior to back it. So I didn't really notice whether my mother hated me too, because she had convinced herself she just had to make me a good person, and that all these things that could be deemed abusive, like physical, emotional, verbal, mental abuse, is just disciplinary acts. Like, I remember one time she was retelling her friends how she hit me. And it's not the most uncommon thing for Caribbean parents to hit their children as part of, disciplining them. But she really beat me. And she retold the story to her friends in a way where she looked like a hero. And they laughed. And it was like, and I felt so ashamed. And I was, mind you, she's in front of me telling them that she beat me and she just had to. And I wasn't, I think one of the saddest things about my childhood is that I was a really good kid in a very dark family. And they were so good at lying to themselves and each other that my genuine attempts to fix us were completely read as, you're the liar. You're the asshole. You're the saboteur. And I never, even though I was deeply unhappy with my mother, I was so used to being raised in a family of PR of sorts, of kind of, if the public believes we love each other, and when we go in public, we hug and we kiss and we laugh, it's almost like our public image is our genuine image, and our private image is when we fight, when we hit, when we call each other names, when we scream. That image doesn't exist. That's not real. Those are moments, and forget about it. Don't talk about it. And what was really hard was I wasn't exactly my family's fighting style. I wanted to talk. They wanted to yell. And I think what made me separate from them was this: as I got older, and they did too, the elder narcissists, or the narcissistic elders, kind of started, inventing things. Oh, you hit me. I'm like, what? Oh, you lie and you yell all the time. And it was just protecting images for people that didn't have lives. Because privately, at best, if we weren't fighting, we were all in our rooms, listening to music, watching TV, applying for jobs. Like, we really did stay away from each other, because if we found each other in the home, there was going to be a fight. Somebody didn't put the milk where it should be. And I didn't think that that was toxic because not only was it normalized by my mother, but it was normalized by her family and it was normalized by my dad. And it was even encouraged because my dad was smart enough to understand that the way my mother was broken was the same way she would try to break me. And my mother, like him, wanted to impress this world. What was different is my mother didn't want to be bad. She was so desperate to be good that she became bad. You know, like it's almost like her mind compartmentalized these shadows because she was so terrified that they were there, she couldn't look at them. Whereas my father really did embrace his shadows. He liked being evil. He liked being causing harm. He just didn't like the consequences that came if you got caught. So he would do everything to ruin his victims or hide them. And when we were in this ceremony, it was just this moment of my mother got really angry because she got called a snake. You know, what it would be to be born from two snakes and still choose God. That was the direct quote, because there's sometimes when people tell you something that it just hits you like a dumbbell. It was very rarely did somebody ever take me to the side and say, your mother is really mean to you. Your mother is really bad to you. And everybody knew that my father was terrible, but they kind of excused it as that's his personality. That's who he is. What can we do? Men. Which is horrible for men, right? And I I always knew my mother was bad to me, but she was so desperate for others to say she was a good mom that it was almost automatic that I didn't matter in terms of the measuring of her motherhood. I would say, you know, I don't like the yelling, I don't like the fighting. I don't yell, you do. You know, like it was it, everything was an image because I think both my parents had given up on finding genuine happiness. And I'm still young, and I was even younger then. So it was like, I'm not giving up this fight to no genuine joy. Sorry, people. And what I love about this moment is if you notice, my mother is like so thankful to this aunt who called her a snake, but angry that I didn't defend her. And that was a core of our dynamic. My mother saw me as a lawyer and as her healer and as her confidant. I was everything she needed and wanted me to be in the moment, and a punching bag, emotionally, physically. Like I was just what she needed and wanted. My identity was whatever image she had of herself at the time. And it was weird because I just, I had done so much to avoid seeing my mother from that perspective, even though I felt it was true. And it shifted me, even though it would take me years to accept that truth, like right now, because I always say my biggest difficulty of accepting the malice of my parents towards me was that I didn't want, it's already hard enough not having a dad, not having a mom is weird. It's weird to be too young to have no parents, but also too old to realize you never did. Okay. And it broke my heart. It broke my heart to accept that. It broke it. It shattered it because there is nobody in this world, and this is another quote that one of the curanderos said about me. If I could break my heart into 7 billion pieces and hand it off to every member of humanity, each and every one would feel love. And there's only been whenever we would have these ceremonies of sorts, um, to be honest, I was a kid or I was deemed young. So it was really about the adults, the adults getting helped, especially my mother, who always had some type of mystery illness. So it was very rare that I actually got like deeply read because they're like, what's wrong with a kid? Nothing. And then to be so deeply described, because again, I was running off of whatever identity shift the adults in the room wanted me to have. So if they wanted me to be If they wanted me to be their hero, if they wanted me to be their entertainer, if they wanted me to be their villain, it didn't matter that I was a kid, I was their kid. So I could be whatever identity they needed from me. And now that I don't, it's almost like there's no adults in my room anymore. I'm the adult. And it's crazy the things that I have to learn that other children were allowed to learn and were even taught, like saying no to people, like allowing people to dislike me, having boundaries, having standards, having help. It's crazy because I had to do everything by myself and then everything that the adults needed or wanted. And if my mom, to impress the elder, my mom wanted me to help one of my cousins find a job while I didn't have one. And I did. I was so deeply invisible. I didn't realize it because I even stopped seeing me. And, that's the thing about graduating school. For me, school was an escape because I had teachers that complimented me. I was a straight A student. I was in every club. So for me, school was what I wanted my home to be: rewarding, encouraging. Uh, and when I lost that, and I went off into the real world, which was exactly like my private life: yelling, unrewarding, difficult to maneuver, fake. I I crashed out because I didn't it's almost like I thought the school side of me would win. I didn't expect to still have to face these energies that dominated my home life, but now outside of my home. So check out check out D'Andrea Musical. Check out daddyrecovery.com. Check out Hardina on all music platforms. God love you.